One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. This is the only show dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and non-technical aspects of the investment banking process. Hello, my name is Alex Mason and I am your host, and I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. It's a beautiful day to learn more about investment banking. So right now, what we're doing is going through the different steps of using comparable companies analysis. This is one of the three major valuation methodologies. And essentially what we're doing is we're taking a target company, a company we're interested in, and comparing it with a number of other companies that we believe will give us some indication of the target company's value. So we talked about a couple steps already. First of all, we talked about how do you figure out what is a good comparable? That's kind of the first step, figuring out the universe of companies that you even want to look at. Then you need to find the financial information for these companies. And then the third step is actually spreading out the comparables. Now, there are two primary methods for doing this. There's spreading them by hand, which is just the manual way of doing it. And then there's spreading comparables using automated software, such as the FactSet plugin for Excel. And there are other ways I'm sure you can do this just using modern technology. But essentially what you're doing is combining all of the data for the companies in the universe that you found into a single place. You're putting these things together. And what we're going to be doing now is I'm just going to spend just a minute or two describing what some of these things are that you would actually want to put together. So there's a couple different categories of statistics or data that are useful to pull. So there's market valuation statistics, there's financial statistics, there's profitability metrics, and then you can also look at growth rates. So let's take a minute to talk about each of these. So when it comes to market valuation, you can look at equity value and you can look at enterprise value. These are kind of the basic measures of value when you're looking at a company. Equity value, of course, relates to the amount of the value of the stock. And then enterprise value, if you remember way back to our definitions of what enterprise value actually is, we're combining equity value as well as the debt of the company and then subtracting out any cash or preferred stock, etc. So that's what we're looking at in terms of market valuation. Find those numbers for your target company as well as for your comparable companies. Next, in terms of financial statistics, we're just looking high level here. So what are the basics? Think about the income statement. Top line is sales. How much sales are these companies bringing in? Also, your gross profit. So sales minus your cost of goods sold is going to give you your gross profit. And then you just kind of work your way down the income statement. What are the major items that you would want to know? Well, EBITDA is certainly one that you want to know, especially because EV to EBITDA is a popular ratio that you can use for valuation, which we'll be talking about in a future episode. So EBITDA, you could also look at your EBIT as well as your net income. Those are things that you can pull in to this spreadsheet. As far as profitability goes, one thing that you can look at is just your gross profit margin. So that can give you a sense of how capital intensive is this business just from a cost of goods sold perspective, and can give you a sense of like, are you working in a high margin business or high margin industry or a lower margin business, lower margin industry? You can also look at your EBITDA margin, your EBIT margins, and then of course, finally, once you get to the bottom of the income statement, what is your net income margin? What is your net profit margin for this business? Because of course, you want to be looking at a business that ideally makes a good amount of profit for every dollar of sales. So you can look at profitability margins. In terms of growth rates, there's different ways that you can look at growth. You can look at growth from the perspective of your sales. You can look at growth from the perspective of your EBITDA and also your earnings per share. Now, in the long run, investors who are going to be looking at these businesses, I know you're from the investment banking perspective, but remember that investors are also looking to buy into businesses, whether they're IPOs or their private equity firm is trying to do a leveraged buyout. Long term, they want to see profitability. And that's where your EPS comes into play. And you also want to know, like, what is the growth of that? So earnings per share, your EBITDA, and your sales growth rates are some good metrics to look at. So these are just some examples of how you can actually spread out your comparables by looking at these different statistics. And in the next episode, we're going to be talking about what do you actually do once you've compiled this information and you have it all sitting in front of you. And it's something called benchmarking. So we'll get to that in the next episode. For now, this is Alex Mason with Investment Banking Insights. I hope you have an incredible, incredible day. Thank you so much for rating the show on Spotify or wherever you listen. Thank you so much for reaching out to me on LinkedIn and via email. I really appreciate it. All right, take care.